Venezuela is in the most serious economic crisis in its history. Estimates are that the economy shrank by 60%, which is about equal to 3 Great Depressions. As a result, about 4.5 million people have left the country. It is the largest displacement of people in the history of Latin America and the Caribbean, according to the United Nations. Meanwhile, within Venezuela, about 20% of the population, almost 7 million people, suffer from undernourishment. Overall, it has become a terrible economic and humanitarian crisis. This video series will explain the nature and cause of this crisis. In order to understand the crisis, we have to move back in history, all the way to the year 1492. At that moment, Christopher Columbus discovered Latin America. Columbus started a process of colonization that quickly spread over the entire continent. Spain took possession of most of Latin America, while Portugal conquered Brazil. Latin America would remain a European colony for the next 300 years. The colonists created a very specific structure of power. At the top of the hierarchy were the Spanish and Portuguese colonists. These people were born and raised in Europe. They then moved to Latin America to serve in a governing position, somewhere in the colonial administrations. Many did so to enrich themselves. After several years of service, they then went back to Spain and Portugal. Directly below the colonists were groups of so-called local elites. These were people of Spanish and Portuguese descent. They were born and raised in the colonies. Many of them became large landowners or wealthy merchants. In this position, they dominated the economy. At the bottom of the hierarchy was what was left of the indigenous population and the African slaves. Together they made up the majority of the population, but they had no political and economic power. This hierarchy also had a racial line. The colonists were white, the local elites were lighter skinned, and the rest of the population was either brown or black. This hierarchy survived for about 300 years, until the 1820s. At that moment in history, the local elites organized a rebellion, and they defeated and drove away the Spanish and Portuguese colonists. The local elites were now at the top of the hierarchy. They created political parties that served their interests, and they continued to dominate the economy. The rest of the population remained firmly at the bottom. The local elites in Latin America established good relationships with the British Empire. This was a very specific partnership. The local elites allowed British merchants, industrialists, and investors to own significant parts of the Latin American economy. In return, the local elites were integrated in the trade and financial flows of the British Empire. It was a very beneficial deal for both. However, in the process, Latin America continued to focus on agriculture and mining, while Britain would specialize in industry, infrastructure, and finance. Although independent, Latin America thus continued a colonial-style economy, very typical of third world nations. It has strengthened its economic underdevelopment. Later, when the British Empire went in decline, the local elites developed ties to the United States. After World War II, wealthy and powerful sectors in the United States became the most important allies and trading partners of the local elites. This partnership, too, proved to be very beneficial to both. Meanwhile, the Latin American population remained in a poor and powerless position. The local elites, allied to the United States, retained their position of power until the year 1998. At that moment in history, the population, for the first time, took control of the government. In a democratic election, they voted into office one of their own, an army colonel by the name of Hugo Chavez. With control over the government, the population could no longer be ignored. It was a radical break in the traditional structure of power, and with it, tensions quickly increased. Thank you for watching. Make sure to also check out the other videos in this video series about Venezuela. The next video series will be about the military-industrial complex in the United States. We will have a look at its origins, the way in which it operates, the connections to major US corporations, its involvement in technological development, but also how it undermines democracy and stimulates US foreign military interventions. I'm planning to make many more video series, for instance about free trade agreements, US foreign policy in the Middle East, petrodollar recycling, but also more general topics like the history of colonialism, neoliberalism, inequality and the nature of capitalism. Now, if you have another great topic in mind for another video series, please let me know in the comment section. If you like this video and you want to help out this channel, please hit the like button or subscribe. I hope to see you next time.